After Granit Xhaka's red card versus Liverpool, Arsenal's central midfield crisis has worsened. So with that in mind, are they closing in on a loan transfer for Juventus' Arthur Melo? Also, let's get an update on Dusan Vladic's potential Arsenal transfer, and are Arsenal looking to postpone the Northern Derby? Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Bath14, and last night a 0-0 draw in the Carabao Cup semi-final with 10 men. You know what, we're gonna take that. But as per my friends, make sure to go down there and smash a like on the video, and also do subscribe to the channel if you are new, as we are less than 300 subscribers away from the big 70k. You man are smashing the support. But let's get into the Arsenal transfer news, and let's start off with Arsenal's central midfield. At this stage, I wouldn't be surprised if Mikel Arteta was to lace up his boots and start against Tottenham on Sunday, because of course, in terms of our last game against Liverpool at Anfield, a certain Granit Xhaka did Granit Xhaka things and got sent off in the first half, and that means that Xhaka will now be suspended for Arsenal's next 2 matches, after the reasoning behind his red card against Liverpool last night was denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity, meaning he will miss the matches against Tottenham away and Liverpool at home. So after Xhaka's red card, Arsenal have only been left with Albert Sambi Lokonga, and I guess you can count Charlie Patino. I mean, at this point, we might as well bring Edu Gaspar out of retirement. We are so light in midfield. And in terms of Granit Xhaka, that means since his debut with Arsenal in 16-17, no Premier League player has been sent off more times in all competitions than Granit Xhaka with 5. I understand that Xhaka does have a few things that he does help Arsenal with, but in terms of the constant red cards, the constant penalties, and the mistakes that are costing Arsenal, this is something that has been a reoccurring theme throughout the entirety of Xhaka's career. So with that kept in mind, I think with all due respect to Xhaka, it's time that Arsenal move on. And going into the future, even though Xhaka will be here until the end of the season, it's time to move on from Granit and find a more long-term replacement. But that, as we know, will be more of a summer transfer, but as of right now, with a lack of midfielders, Arsenal need a short-term option. But will that be Juventus' Arthur Melo? Well, according to Fabrizio Romano, he says negotiations between Arsenal and Juventus for Arthur Melo will continue in the coming hours, with Arsenal offering a loan deal plus full salary covered until June, no obligation to buy clause included as of now. So Arsenal are negotiating for Arthur Melo from Juventus, and they are closing in on a deal, with Arsenal saying we'll take the player, we'll pay all of his wages, but we don't want an obligation to buy as it stands. But as of right now, we don't want an obligation to buy because we don't know if he is the guy for the long term. And this was also echoed by Charles Watt, who says that Arsenal, hoping talks with Juventus today, can really move things forwards in terms of Arthur's loan. Player wants to move done quickly and he's pushing for it, sees the Premier League as the best league in the world, but Juventus are still to sign off on it, and Arsenal and Arthur are waiting. The fact the player is openly pushing for a transfer to Arsenal Football Club gives us a massive advantage. It is essentially pushing the hand of Juventus, and even though they're looking for replacements, I think ultimately the player's desire will come out on top. And even according to Mr. Chris Wheatley, Arsenal have accelerated talks to sign Arthur Melo on loan in the past few hours. This transfer is getting closer and closer, and Arsenal are doing all they can. But talking about Mr. Chris Wheatley, we're actually going to have the guy on this channel in the next few days. So with that kept in mind, if you guys have any questions that you want me to ask Chris, then make sure to let me know what they are down below in the comments. Fabrizio Romano on the Arthur Melo deal says that Arteta approves him, and Arsenal are also prepared to cover his salary, but it is up to Juventus. No green light yet for a loan move, as they need to find a replacement. I won't lie to you guys, the fact that Mikel Arteta approves of Arthur Melo gives me more confidence of the player. But secondly, in terms of Juventus, the fact they need to sign a replacement before they let go of this player is not what Arsenal want to hear, because that means they need more time to find the player, to sign him up, and ultimately in terms of Arsenal, we are desperate, and with the games that we have upcoming, we need a midfielder in ASAP. But saying that, the Mail claim that sources close to Arthur Melo are confident a deal can be struck with Arsenal, with one saying there's a very large possibility Arthur wants to play, he knows Arsenal can give him minutes because the team needs it. I'm really hoping the player's ultimate desire is enough to push Juventus' hand and to give Arthur the green light to make this transfer happen. But in terms of the type of player that Arthur is, well, during his time at Barcelona, a certain Lionel Messi said, Arthur has surprised me. He really reminds me of Xavi's style. The undisputed GOAT of football saying that this guy reminds him of Xavi, well, that there is as high a praise as you can get. Messi also says, I did not know Arthur. He doesn't lose the ball. He likes to play short. Usually new players that come from different regions take time to get used to the rhythm of the rondos, but Arthur did it very quickly. Lionel Messi seems to be a massive fan of Arthur Melo, and in terms of on-ball ability, I don't think there's any denying that Arthur has a lot of quality, whether that being press resistant but also just keeping the ball and keeping it ticking. There's a reason why Barcelona signed him in the first place. But for me, it's more the off-ball ability that is my biggest concern when it comes to the player. Can he cope with the physicality of the Premier League? And does he have the engine to cover ground and to win that ball back? But what do you guys make of Arthur Melo, and is he a player that you guys are happy to see Arsenal sign? But talking about that, in terms of the current Juventus manager, Max Allegri, when he was asked about Arthur to Arsenal, he said, "I've already said it. This is one of our team and we need to complete this season with the current squad." So with that kept in mind, for me, the fact that Arsenal are so desperate as it stands, if they are made to wait for longer and longer, I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal were to move on to other midfield targets, and one being potentially a certain Georginio Wijnaldum out of Paris Saint-Germain. And in terms of Wijnaldum, according to Sky Cover, he says, "I'm pretty convinced he wants to return to the Premier League, and I'm pretty convinced he would want to play for Arsenal. Arsenal will be very high up on his list of clubs he would like to play for." In terms of Georginio Wijnaldum, I've always made it clear, I think it does make a lot of sense. In terms of the short term, he gives Arsenal experience and a player that suits the system, but most importantly, it gives Arsenal numbers in midfield. And with the player's desire very clear, I think it's also a very possible transfer if Arsenal want to make it happen. But in terms of yourselves, if I was to give you guys a choice out of Arthur Melo and Georginio Wijnaldum, which player would you prefer to see Arsenal sign on a short-term basis in this transfer window? But talking about Arsenal midfielders, according to Chris Whitley, he understands that Arsenal have terminated Miguel Aziz's loan with Portsmouth. So Arsenal have brought back their young central midfielder out on loan in Miguel Aziz, who's actually working under the ex-manager of Elmo Smith Rowe at Huddersfield and Dan Cowley. Now we're not quite sure what Arsenal are trying to do here. Is in bringing him back to the academy? Do they not think he's playing enough minutes? Or do they want him involved in the Arsenal first team with the like of central midfielders? I won't lie to you guys right now, I don't have a Scooby-Doo, so I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. But talking about Arsenal central midfielders, what about Thomas Partey? Because in his latest game for Ghana, they drew 1 with Gabon, and what that means in terms of Group C, Ghana are now 3rd place, and if Gabon were to avoid defeat against Morocco in the next game, Ghana are out of the African Cup of Nations, which of course is very unfortunate for the Ghanaian Arsenal fans, but in terms of Partey, it means Thomas Teya is coming back very early. But of course, I don't want to offend any Ghanaians, but at the same time, I want Partey back in the Arsenal midfield. So I guess, as per my friends, we're just going to have to wait and see. Okay, let's move on. Let's discuss Dusan Vlahovic. I constantly find myself on Twitter refreshing time and time again, what's the latest on Vlahovic? Have Arsenal made a bid? Have Fiorentina accepted? What's going on with the agents? Well, in terms of the latest today, according to Calcio Mercato in Italy, Arsenal will submit a €60 million bid for Dusan Vlahovic in the coming days. Fiorentina would like to sell the striker in January. So Fiorentina would like to sell the striker, and they're looking to of course replace him with Julian Alvarez out of Argentina. And of course they have already signed a certain Christoph Piontek. And even in terms of Fiorentina today, their CEO has been speaking on Dusan Vlahovic's future and Arsenal's bid. And he says, "We're open to considering all proposals we'll receive for Vlahovic, but no bid is on the table right now. We have not received any official offer. Let's see if some proposal will arrive." If Fiorentina actually wanted to keep the player to give themselves a push towards European football, this was the perfect opportunity for them to come out and say, the player's going nowhere, he's our player until the end of the season. But instead what the CEO has confirmed is that Fiorentina are looking to actively cash in this specific transfer window. So not only are Arsenal willing to put the finances on the table, but also in terms of Fiorentina, they've confirmed they're willing to accept a deal. What on earth is holding this transfer back? Well, according to Gabriel Marcotti of ESPN, he says the issue with Vlahovic is the agents. The numbers out there, they are something like 15 to 20 million euros in commission now to make this deal happen, plus 10% of future sales, which is extremely unusual and has turned off a lot of clubs. Whoever this guy's agent is really starting to get on my nerves, because this transfer is basically waiting to happen. Arsenal are doing all they can, they're pushing and pushing and pushing. But when you hear fees like 15 to 20 million euros, that's essentially a transfer fee on top of another transfer fee. I won't lie to you guys, with that being the case, I'm surprised that Arsenal haven't walked away from this transfer. And for me, the fact that Arsenal haven't walked away despite those absurd numbers means that they are confident they can still make a deal happen. But in terms of the player himself, he is a lethal goal scorer. And this can be shown by the fact that in terms of most league goals scored in Europe's top 5 leagues since the start of 2021, Vlahovic is only behind Robert Lewandowski. The fact that he's doing this at 21 years of age and also playing for a pretty mediocre Fiorentina side, I can see why Arteta wants him, I can see why Arsenal wants him. When it comes to putting the ball in the back of the net, Vlahovic has an insane amount of potential. But with the whole agent fees in mind, what do you guys make of Dusan Vlahovic, and do you guys think he is worth all the hassle? Okay, let's move on to the other Arsenal news today. And starting off with Arsenal's defensive masterclass at Anfield even though with 10 men with 71 minutes up against the mighty Kop, the mighty Liverpool, and somehow in some way Mikel Arteta's Arsenal was still able to keep a clean sheet. And in the process, Arsenal became the first side to stop Liverpool scoring at a game at Anfield across all competitions this season, and they did it with 10 men for 71 minutes. The achievement there from Arteta's Arsenal playing the 5-3-1 formation, it was a defensive masterstroke, and credit must go towards Mikel Arteta. And it wasn't just the fact that Arsenal kept a clean sheet, but also Liverpool didn't make any chances. In fact, they only managed one shot on target in the entirety of the game. This is the mighty Liverpool, and yes, no Salah and Mane, but it's still had Trent and Robertson, but they couldn't create a single chance. But in terms of the standout Arsenal player, the Arsenal defender and man of the match, it was Benjamin Blanco Benny White. And in terms of Ben White's game by the numbers against Liverpool, 5 clearances, 3 block shots, 3 tackles, 3 interceptions, 3 ground duels won, and 0 times dribbled past. Benny Blanco dropping a man of the match defensive performance at VVD's backyard. That, my friends, there is beautiful scenes. But let me know your own thoughts on the Arsenal performance. And now going into that second leg of the Emirates, do you guys think that Arsenal will progress to the Carabao Cup final? And in terms of other Arsenal news, well, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang did not take part in Gabon's African Cup of Nations match against Ghana this evening after medical examinations carried out by CAF showed suspected heart issues. But in terms of Arsenal, according to Charles Watt, their medical team have spoken to Aubameyang and they believe he is okay. He has trained normally for the past 2 days and says he's feeling fine. I won't lie to you guys, when I saw the heart issues, I was very scared at the start, but thankfully, according to the Arsenal medical team, Pierre is going to be fine. But in terms of all, I'm wishing you the best of recovery and best of luck at AFCON with Gabon. Gabriel Martinelli has officially won the December Premier League PFA Fans Player of the Month award. But talking about beautiful scenes, Alexandre Lacazette's goal against Southampton has won the Premier League Goal of the Month award. A goal that started off with the goalkeeper at Ramsdale and ended up with Lacazette. It was a beautiful goal, and thankfully a goal that I was able to watch live in person. It was playing football the Arsenal way, the Mikel Arteta way, and thankfully the Premier League have recognised that and given Lacazette an award. But moving on for Arsenal, of course, a massive game looms on Sunday, the North London derby, but is it going to go ahead? Because in terms of Arsenal, they say we can confirm we have made an application to the Premier League to postpone Sunday's North London derby. And the reason behind that, my friends, is let's just say Arsenal have a real lack of numbers when it comes to first team players. And here are the Arsenal players that are set to be unavailable: Callum Chambers, Cedric Suarez, Kieran Tierney, Takahiro Tomiyasu, Xhaka, Partey, Elneny, Emil Smith-Rowe, Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Nicolas Pepe, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Whether it's injury, is it AFCON or COVID, Arsenal have a lack of numbers and they're using the Premier League rules to their advantage. Because as The Athletic points out, the Premier League rules stipulate that teams must fulfill fixtures if they have 14 players, meaning 13 outfield players and a goalkeeper available to play. Arsenal only have 12 players available. But in terms of Arsenal request to postpone, according to Sami Mokbel, the game has triggered an anger at Tottenham, who are concerned their arch rivals are using the rules to have the game called off because their best players are unavailable. Now I can understand their anger because we've only got one COVID case, but in terms of Arsenal here, they are simply playing by the rules. So if those rules annoy you, that's not Arsenal's fault, that's the Premier League's fault. So go argue with the rule makers. But also in terms of Arsenal, I can totally understand with the players that are missing. If they were to get this game postponed, going into the future, whenever the game is rescheduled, they can have the likes of Partey back, the likes of Xhaka back, and even in terms of new signings, Vlahovic, Arthur Melo, imagine them in this Arsenal team. But in terms of the overall outrage, I can't understand it because there's been 22 games that have been postponed and no one batted an eye. You had Liverpool confirm faking COVID tests and there weren't any repercussions. But yet the moment the Arsenal Football Club tried to use the basic rules, there's a lot of outrage and meltdowns and, oh, what are Arsenal doing? This is not fair. We are simply playing by the rules, and if you don't like the rules, that's not our fault. But let me know down below in the comments your own thoughts on Arsenal trying to postpone the North London derby. But that is the video there and there. If you guys have enjoyed, make sure to go down there and smash a like on the video, and also to subscribe if you're new. If you would like to follow your boy on them social medias, then the links will be down below in the description. But that was the latest episode of the Transfers FC and Arthur Melo, Dusan Vlahovic, but Arsenal postponing the North London derby. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. A very few interesting days ahead. Anyways guys, I'll see you next time. In a bit.